Well, we just got word that Philadelphia is preparing to battle Dallas for free agent linebacker Shaq Leonard. Dallas will get the first shot, though, as the former All-Pro is meeting with the Cowboys as we speak. Multiple insiders suggest that Philly could be bringing in recently fired Panthers head coach Frank Reich, although you gotta hear what Nick Sirianni had to say about the possibility. And there are some fresh details regarding the Bills player shoving an Eagles fan after the game on Sunday. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. So by now, you've probably seen this viral video of Bills players, including Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson, coming up to an Eagles fan and shoving him towards the end of Sunday's game. Well, recently, Phillips released a statement saying the fans were threatening both him and his family, which we all should collectively frown upon. But now, it appears Phillips might have been lying, as the fan sitting right next to the whole incident has finally spoken out on TikTok.
He didn't say nothing. He laughed at him after Jalen scored the first touchdown. He called him soft. He told him we were going to do it all game. And I know that because I was two people to the right of him. The whole game, Jordan Phillips was at this dude's throat, essentially.
Now, obviously, it's a he said, she said situation, but it kind of looks like, to me, from the other angles, the Bills players are just soft and continue to jar back and forth with this fan all game long and eventually just couldn't handle the pressure. It's kind of similar to how Bills fans are on Twitter right now, blaming the refs as the reason why Buffalo actually lost, even though if you look at every major statistical category, look at that! Buffalo blew out Philadelphia and yet still were unable to beat them. I tend to side with Brandon Graham in this whole situation and basically saying that it didn't matter.
It don't matter.
And while Bills fans will continue to cry, I think we all can kind of sympathize with Jalen Hurts, who was actually smiling courtside during the Sixers drubbing of the Lakers last night. Not gonna lie, it's fun seeing Hurts a little bit out of his football element and smiling for once. I love his serious demeanor. I think it's what makes him very unique and one of the main reasons why Philadelphia is so darn focused and has the belief that they can come back and win every single game. But it's also seen Jalen Hurts is human, has a little bit of fun on the sidelines, and actually is enjoying himself just days after a massive win against the Buffalo Bills. Now, speaking of smiling, do you think Nick Sirianni was smiling yesterday when he realized that former Eagles offensive coordinator Frank Reich was fired by the Panthers after a 1-10 start? I think Nick Sirianni is licking his chops for the potential to go ahead and bring in another offensive consultant. Now, it's a tough blow for the former architect of the Eagles' 2017 offense, although can Frank Reich really be that upset when Carolina has to pay him $25,000, wait for it, a day over the next 3 years due to the guarantees in his contract? And with money seemingly no longer being an issue for Frank Reich, Eagle fans are all wondering when or if Philadelphia could bring in the former offensive coordinator as kind of a brand new offensive consultant. You gotta remember, the ties run deeper than just Reich being a former Eagles offensive coordinator a few years ago. Reich was the head coach following his stint in Philadelphia back in 2018 of the Colts, and his offensive coordinator was, yes, young Nick Sirianni. And Sirianni, he absolutely loves Frank Reich. He's mentioned that multiple times, and he even yelled at Colts fans just after the Eagles beat Indy following Reich being fired. Plus, Philly has a history of bringing in consultants, including Vic Fangio last season to help out with the Eagles' defense during that playoff stretch. Now, for what it's worth, Reich did tell the Charlotte Observer just minutes after being fired that, quote, "This is probably the final chapter of my NFL journey," although he didn't fully close the door on being a consultant. CBS Sports' Jeff Kerr added, quote, "Good bet Nick Sirianni brings Frank Reich in as a consultant." And NFL insider John McMullen, he echoed that sentiment, tweeting, quote, "Needless to say, Dave Tepper is now on Nick Sirianni's blank list. And whether it becomes official or not, you can bet Frank Reich is going to be the de facto consultant for the Eagles coach." But when asked about it yesterday during his Monday press conference, Sirianni was very non-committal, but also didn't negate the idea.
You know what, Rube, it's obviously very early, with everything that's going on. And so I haven't even really thought about that quite yet. As far as bringing somebody in the middle of the year, you know, what goes into that a lot of times is familiarity with the person. And so, you know, that's what goes into that quite often is the familiarity with the coach, the relationship with the coach. But I'm not there yet. Obviously, you know, obviously we're just finished up our evaluation of our game and just starting in on San Francisco.
What do you guys think? Should Philadelphia bring in Frank Reich as an offensive consultant and help out Brian Johnson for the second half or the second final quarter of this season? Philadelphia's offense has been up and down, and while a lot of people, including myself, have liked what we've seen, it can't hurt to bring in another great genius offensive mind, mainly the kind of true architect of the RPO back in 2017, to help make sure this offense kind of achieves their full potential. Remember, they were pretty bad the first half against the Buffalo Bills. They figured things out late, but if they could be a 4-quarter dominant offense, the Super Bowl trophy could be a lot easier to grasp in Philadelphia. Now, speaking of Brian Johnson, ESPN's Adam Schefter confirmed yesterday that Brian Johnson is expected to be at the top of a lot of teams' lists for head coaching jobs. He also noted there's likely to be a lot of head coaching changes this offseason, maybe even 7 to 10 possibilities. And with up to 10 openings being available, it shouldn't surprise any Eagle fan that Brian Johnson is going to be heavily pursued by the majority of vacancies that come available during the 2024 offseason. Love him or hate him, Brian Johnson was the quarterback coach during Hurts's rise last season and currently is the offensive coordinator of a 10-1 football team with the best record in the NFL and an MVP caliber quarterback. And the shift in coaching recently has been to hire young people who are offensive minded. They're trying to find the next Nick Sirianni or the next Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan. And Brian Johnson, while his resume is a little bit up and down in terms of overall production, should heavily be considered and probably will get hired by somebody needing an offensive-minded head coach this offseason. Although think about it, if the Birds bring in Reich as a consultant now, they could then hire him as the Eagles' offensive coordinator next year if or when Brian Johnson goes and leaves to become an official head coach of an NFL team. It'd kind of be the perfect scenario. Thumbs up if you guys would like that. Now, the other big news of the day is the latest update from ESPN's Adam Schefter regarding former Colts linebacker Shaq Leonard. Schefter tweeted just a few hours ago, quote, "Free agent 3-time All-Pro linebacker Shaquille Leonard is visiting today with the Dallas Cowboys, and in the words of a source, should be visiting later this week with the Philadelphia Eagles." Now, minutes later, the Athletic's Diana Rossini added more context saying, "All-Pro linebacker Shaq Leonard is visiting with the Cowboys, and I was told the Eagles do not have a visit set up yet. The hope in Philly is if he leaves Dallas without a deal, they can land him. There are also other teams talking to Leonard's camp about possible interest." Now, that sounds like to me that Philadelphia is going to have to battle their biggest rival off the field if they want to bring in the former All-Pro linebacker. And unfortunately for us, Dallas will get the first shot during his visit today, and if they offer him enough money, enough playing time, he might just call it quits and sign with Dallas by the end of the day. Maybe it's happened by the time you're watching this video. But as Diana pointed out, if he leaves Dallas without a deal, Philadelphia should be in the driver's seat. I like this tweet from a Cowboys fan, G from Jersey, on Twitter saying, quote, "Filthy," funny, "lost linebacker Zach Cunningham to a hamstring injury Sunday, meaning they are desperate for help at linebacker right now. Dallas has an opportunity to not let Leonard leave the building today. If Leonard makes it a Philly, they'll offer him more financially guaranteed. Get it done," claiming that the Cowboys need to get it done or else Philly's definitely going to steal the linebacker. Now, for what it's worth, Nick Sirianni did seem to rave about Leonard when asked about him yesterday in his Monday meeting with the media.
Yeah, man, he can make he made a lot of plays. That's for sure. He had a knack for the football and how to get the football. I think what I remember is just how, as an offensive coordinator, how hard he was to throw around. His length was like comparable to Jim Boeheim's 2-3 zone at Syracuse. I mean, he's gonna make a play in the passing lane. So that's. I guess he was a great teammate, and I really enjoyed being around him. I still have a relationship with him. I think nothing, but I think he's, a great person, great teammate, and like I said, the main thing was the ball and the length that come to mind with that.
But it does seem like we have to wait and see if he leaves Dallas today without a deal. If you get that confirmation, follow me on Twitter for the latest on that, and he does not sign with the Dallas Cowboys, expecting to meet with Philadelphia later this week and potentially have a deal done before Philadelphia plays the Niners next Sunday afternoon. Let me know where you guys are at on Shaq Leonard. I did a whole video on him during the Thanksgiving break at my parents' house, basically explaining that he's not the same player that he was back in 2021, but with Zach Cunningham potentially being out, waiting on the MRI details on that hamstring injury, I think it makes a lot of sense to at least kick the bucket on the former All-Pro. Now, before we end today, I got to mention, I'm super excited for tomorrow's show. Tomorrow's show, breaking down all the recent trash talk. Just yesterday, we had Hassan Reddick, Deebo Samuel going at each other for Eagles versus 49ers. The Weiner fan base is going crazy. That video is going to be a bunch of fun tomorrow. Make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe. We're approaching 30,000 subs. If you haven't hit the notification bell as well, I would encourage you to do it because tomorrow's show is going to be a bunch of fun. Plenty more updates happening here and obviously my Twitter account as well. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.